if I were to have a brand that was up and running today, these are the people that I would have in my marketing team running the show. Number one, I would have someone who is very strong and has an opinion on social media, which means that this person is understands how to stay relevant. If this person understands how to stay relevant, that person is going to be able to keep the brand relevant, which is number one. Number two, I would have a person or this same person have the ability to really truly understand platform, understand performance. That is the only way to win in today's world. The third, I will never disrespect experience and traditional practices. So it's very important to have someone who understands the traditional aspects of brand building but is able to mold him or herself into operating with agility and operate and being able to mold themselves to what this complex world of marketing today is. Because if I've joked about this before. If I had a journalist, I had an IT professional, and I had a brand manager from a traditional company, that would make my marketing team.
Hi, Pooja. Lovely having you as a special guest in our podcast, and it's really nice talking to you. And thanks for taking time and talking to me.
Oh, thank you, Swami. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm just excited that you and I have stayed in touch all these years. So, thanks so much for the invitation.
Brilliant. It's our privilege to have you in the podcast. And let me dive into the conversation, Pooja. So one of the things that that have completely impressed me as a professional, as far as you are concerned, uh, is the way I've seen you, grow through the years, right from the Unilever days to, you've worked in, contract, then you moved to Femina, and then you went out and built Glitch. So there's a whole story around how you've structured your career. But as you do all this, my belief is that there are some very strong foundations that lead up to somebody successful like you, right? So how was your growing up years? What are those lessons that you learned, in your growing up years, which you carry till date? So tell me some stories. Tell me, for example, I read that your grandfather was a poet, right? So so there's some interesting things that I know. So therefore, what are the things that you learned during those days, which you carry forward till date?
That's such a great question. I haven't really ever answered that in an interview before. But for me, my foundation years were truly my foundation years because they defined me, they made me the person that I am today. And I take so much of that even today in the way I live my life. Life was tough while I was growing up. And I've said that part, before I lost my dad when I was very young, when I was 2.5. So I've been raised by a single mom who's an exceptional woman. So for me, opportunities seemed very distant because it was what you were busy with. Hey, let's get through today, right? That's when my environment was like that. I have to get through today, make sure that today is good, and looking very far ahead in the future was not really something that we got into. But that's something that there's the inner fire you have, and I think you're either born with it or you create it. So I feel I was born with it, and I always had it, even as a young child, where I wanted to get out of the situation I was in. I wanted to live a better life, and to be able to live a better life without the support system of what a traditional family has. You have a dad, and my mom was so busy while she was working. So I was really, in a sense, building my opportunities myself. And that's one of the key foundations of my life, that I'm an opportunity spotter and I'm an opportunity builder. And I say that in the most positive manner because, when you say, hey, you're an opportunity spotter, sometimes it's taken very negatively. But I truly believe that, you've got to knock on the doors that you want opened. Sometimes they open automatically. Sometimes you really have to hammer hard, right? And I'm not shy of that at all, even today, even at this age. I will go after an opportunity that I want opened up for myself. If it's something that I truly believe is good for me, good for my family, my environment, and that's what I went after. So one big, uh, core value I say, which is to not shy away from knocking on doors. The second one is keeping your eyes and ears open. You and I have spoken about this very recently. Is that so often people don't take feedback well. But feedback is the biggest gift you can get from someone. Because if you're truly listening, then that's the way you grow. Because so often when you are running, going after your goals as you create your opportunities, you forget. You're not listening to things that you really should pay attention to. The second most important piece that I have trained myself to be is to be a good listener, which is, my professional coach told me this term very recently, where she said it's actually not feedback, it's feed forward, because what you get helps you move forward. And it has been a great asset for me. I unlocked this not very early on in my life. I say it happened sort of mid career, where I say, no, I've got to sit back and listen to what people are telling me. That's the only way I'm going to grow. So that's the second piece. Even till today, if someone's willing to take their time out and tell me stuff, I will sit back and listen. It's not about bruising my ego or killing my confidence. You also have to over time have the maturity to understand what information is really good for you and will help you grow, and what information is sort of harmful, right? You gain that maturity over time. But that's an important piece to have. The third piece is to really be able to relax and take a breath. And the fact that you are the center of your own life. No one else is thinking about you as much as you are thinking about yourself. In our culture, or I think in the culture of the world, we're so often worried about, oh, what is this person thinking about me? Or what is the industry thinking about me? What is my environment thinking about me? And so many of the decisions you take are sort of guided by that noise in your head. Hey, if I take this, this is how I will be perceived. If I don't do this, this is how I will be perceived. Um, Again, something that I've done, in the recent years, is which is to sort of really shut out that noise. I don't live for the community. My life is for myself. And because my life is for myself, there are certain decisions which a community may not agree with, which my industry may not agree with, but you still take it because it's better for your life. And that is really the third value slash principle slash rule that I sort of have for myself, which is you're the hero of your own life. No one is thinking about you as much as you are thinking about yourself. So just, go with the flow, do what you have to do, and stay mentally fit and happy. Did I answer your question, Swami?
Perfect, perfect. And did this come because your mom has always told you be a good person?
I think it does come from that, right? Where we're taught that as I remember my mom telling me so many times, I don't care if you are, just be a good person. Yes, it does come from that. Maybe it's a part of our conditioning, but also from the where. For me, largely because I was always far younger than my peers wherever I was. That's no longer the case anymore, of course. I gladly report that. But when I was starting out, I was always the youngest person in the room, and you're susceptible to opinion. And I had to really train myself to say that it does not, someone else's opinion of me does not matter. I don't live for them. My life is my own. And to be able to recognize that, it's very liberating, because you then take decisions that you truly are happy about. And if you're truly happy about the decision, you do well. And at least that has been my experience and my story.
Okay. So the creative side of yours, does it come from your grandfather who was a poet?
Maybe you reminded me that right now, Swami. He was such a brilliant poet, Harish Chandra Johari, that was his name, and I obviously didn't know of how important that was till the time I grew up, because he used to tell us as kids, and he used to read his poetry to us. I remember this one line he said on his deathbed to me. He said, Jeete raho Pooja. It's such a normal thing that you tell your. And then he said this in Hindi, which I will not be able to do justice to. But I will say that in English. He said, "Look at the irony of life. A dying man is giving the blessings of a long life." And that was the kind of person he was. And has it had impact on me subconsciously? I'm sure it has. That.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I think at one end, some of the value systems that you talk about come from some of the advice that you got from your mom. The creativity comes from probably the genes that you carry when you know that your grandfather is a poet. I believe these things come back to you. And I was also looking at your Twitter handle, and you follow Dalai Lama. So some of this comes from the teachings. Is it something that's close to your heart? Is that the reason why you have this sense of calmness around you?
Um, it is. This is firstly, that's a great observation, Swami. So that kudos to you on that. Again, it's something that I've built out for myself. I'm not naturally a very calm person. You've known me as as a young executive, so it's something that I've built out for myself. And I'm seeking, me and my partner are seeking that kind of life, and we built that life for ourselves, which is we really live a slow growth life now. And what that truly means, it's not just about wealth. It's when you talk about slow growth, people are usually they just sort of bucket it in profession. It's not just about your profession, but the life that you live, which is to truly care about things that really matter, to understand prioritization, to understand that things are not in your control. To that part, in fact, the un- understanding your lack of control on so many things in life, it's humbling. It's absolutely humbling. It humbles your arrogance. And I say that in the most positive manner, because I had so many situations in my life where I've gotten and say, I've got this. This is in my control. I'm going to make it happen. It's gone belly up. And sometimes very deep personal things which have gone belly up. And those experiences teach you that you have none of this is in your control. You only live a day at a time. Every day, the fact that you get up, you're lucky. You also recognize there's so many things that have happened to me that make me believe that there's this you live a life, but you actually live two lives. One where you're just living like you're going to have forever, and then you start living knowing that you don't have forever. And that knowledge, that awareness of that knowledge, that we really truly have limited time. How we spend our time is the most important aspect for me in my life today. Who I spend my time with, the most valuable aspect in my life today. My own time is my biggest wealth, nothing else. And how I spend it, who I choose to spend it with, is really what this next phase of my life is, and actually has been for some time now.
So now that you've seen it for almost 20 years, if there's an youngster listening to this podcast, how do you think they should structure their career? Because at one stage, I would say we need an impatience, DNA in us. At some point in time, we need a certain calmness DNA in us. So how do you think one should structure and think about the career to ensure that there's a balance that you can be when you look back 20, 25 years later, you need to look back and then say, hey, this is really how I pivoted every 3 years. So what would be the advice that you would probably give us, 2 or 3 key takeaways?
Again, a very good question. I'm going to answer that by stepping back a little bit. A lot of journalists and a lot of people who I speak with even a lot of young people ask me, hey, how did you do it? You live such a, and now you're talking about living a slow growth life, etc. I'm sure you've had to work very hard to be here. Answer to that is yes. My experience, I could not have lived the way I'm living right now when I was at 20, right? Because there is at the age of 20, there's a kind of energy you have in your own gut that drives you. There is a environment around you which is almost free of any sort of responsibilities, right? Be it partnerships or parenthood or any of those things, which you're free of. And I say free of because that's a great phase to be free of things, because you have that kind of energy. Putting in your 100% is essential. So I will never tell anyone, be relaxed from the very beginning. That's not how I lived my life. That's also not how I recommend anyone else lives. But that, people make their own decisions. It is going over the 100% that burns us out. And that has been my real realization. Putting in the 100% important for success. 100% at work, 100% with your family, being able to really strike balance in how you're doing at work, with your home. There are these three sections: your work, your home, your community. Your work constitutes your career and everything that keeps you productive. Your family is your parents, your partner, your children over a period of time, as well as your friends. Your community is the community at large, the impact that you really have on the world and in your community. It doesn't really have to be at a national, global level, just your own community, right? These are three sections. If you are able to strike balance in these three sections, you're living well. So being able to do that 100% is critical. It is, you know, when I look back at my career, it is the times when I went 130%, 140%, 200% when I started to burn out. But even if I had done just the 100%, I would be sitting in the same position as I'm in today, right? The 100% is essential. It is going over and above that that leads to the burnout. And that is my humble observation and
And
recommendation.
therefore, how do you want? Because a lot of people sometimes think even giving 100% is too much, right? So therefore, you do see that as a takeaway in a lot of people today. So therefore, it's important to give 100%, but it's important to give 100%, but balance it between these three pillars. That's your advice.
100%. That is exactly my advice. That because of any of those sections, which is work, family, and community, are lacking focus, you're not living a fulfilled life. We keep saying, tomorrow I will have time for family. Tomorrow I will have time for my friends. Tomorrow I will have time for community. You don't know if tomorrow is even going to come, right? That realizing that is quite profound. And the moment you realize that, you start living better. So 100% in these three buckets. Lives are hectic and it's easier said than done. I have been in situations as a young executive where I've had to put in 100, 200, 300% in what I am doing. I feel that younger people today are far, I would say far more aware. I won't say smarter. I would say aware of the balance that they own, that they need to strike themselves, in these three buckets. So there's a lot of knowledge and awareness that the young generation is getting into the workforce with, and there is a certain kind of expectation, I feel rightly so, that they have from their workplaces. Because let's be honest, I mean, our workplaces have been pretty excessive for many many years, right? So we do need to strike the right kind of balance between work and the number of hours we expect people to put in, etc. So that's my answer to them.
Okay. So, we are at a stage where, there is a looming recession that people are talking about,
Yeah.
right? But you started, your journey exactly at a time when, recession happened, right? So, what is it that you did right, which, people who are looking to start up today, can take a leaf out of, and then say, what are the things that I need to do now that there seems to be a recession that's coming? So, what are the, you know, 4 or 5 things that you need to be aware of to ensure that you live through this volatility?
Yeah. So firstly, Varun and Rohit started Glitch in the middle of the
Yeah,
recession, and I joined them a few years later. And what we, I think, what is something that we talk about as part of their founding story is that there was a gap in the market that no one else was filling. That gap seemed like a very small gap, seemed like an irritating gap, right? No one else was filling that. And that's what we started to fill. Which is to say that there was in that during that time, there were all of the big agencies that were doing certain kind of work, but digital disruption had just started coming about, right? Content suddenly became this big thing, social media became a big thing, and but it was almost looked at as a little tick in the marketing manager's laundry list of things to do, never the most prominent, right? And it was most often number 10, number 12 in the entire list of priorities. So many people didn't want to touch it. So many didn't. But so many did. And look at the success stories of all of us who sort of started that around that time, right? Where we said that we're going to go after certain kind of content. We're going to go after, even if it's low value, we're going to go after certain kind of creative delivery, even if it is low value. But we're going to deal with efficiencies at scale. And when you start talking about efficiencies at scale and are able to show the person spending the dollars, the value on each dollar that the person is spending, suddenly you become very important. I remember this journey of us very clearly. We were people, especially in Unilever, we were people who used to, in Unilever and in Bombay has a massive street inside their office, a lovely office.
correct.
And we used to be, there's Brew Cafe downstairs, and Rohit and I, and sometimes Varun, we used to be in that cafe hoping to speak to brand managers, right? And then from that cafe, we were invited to be in a meeting, sitting in the corner. From that corner, we kept adding value. We got a seat at the table. Very quickly, we got a very, very important seat at the table. Then we became the most important people in the room. I have seen us go through that journey because we were very consistent about one thing, which is delivering value, real value, right? There was talk about, hey, are we changing the way advertising is done? Is this even Does this even make sense? It is so low value. But when you look at, when you're so culturally sound, so there's certain things. It was not just about the value, right? It was about, can you actually deliver culturally sound, authentic pieces of work at great value that deliver great results? If you're able to do that consistently, you become a valuable partner. And for us, that's been the journey, and that's what I urge of all young people or older people or people of whichever age, gender, diversity, who are thinking of starting companies right now, that even though I wasn't one of the people that went out and took their risk in the middle of the recession, and joined them, sometime later, I know very confidently that it is finding that gap and being able to consistently deliver on that gap and being able to take a risk taker. And it's, risk being taking risks is something that everyone tells for, when you're starting a company, but it is real risk. It is real risk, right? You've done this yourself. It could all just blow up, and it could mean absolutely nothing. Your time and effort could mean absolutely nothing, but it's actually not nothing. Every experience earned is experience earned, and you don't know where you're going to use it. So what's the worst that can happen is the way you get into it, and you see where it goes.
So therefore, what you're saying is during recession, look at, are you delivering value even in a tough environment? Is that something that you have to keep rethinking and re-looking at your business and saying, okay, if we are not delivering value, then relook at it, because this is a time when every piece of dollar is actually being questioned, right?
Delivering value by being disruptive, right? It's not just about delivering value, because there will be many people who will come and deliver value. That's the only conversation people will have with you during a recession, right? That I'm coming to you with value. But being disruptive while adding value, being consistent about that disruption, understanding your market environment so well that you have to be 10 steps ahead of the people taking the decision on the money spends. And it is for us, knowledge was the most valuable asset we had. We knew everything about the industry, we knew everything about every platform that was out there, we knew all of the cultural nuances that could help us get to content disruption. It was a combination of all of that that sort of helped us get to where we were. So that's my sort of the way I would sort of sum it up for everyone.
Okay. So let's dive into the world of marketing, advertising, which I think you've been so successful. Uh, what do you think, the marketing department of the future is going to look like? And what are you seeing from where you started to where it is today? And how do you see it in the next couple of years?
Um, there's such debate about this. I mean, you know it, right? There's so much debate about how is the marketing environment of the future going to look like. Um, so I'll answer how it was when we started. When we started as Glitch, marketing was, in the middle of this. There was it was there was this flux. We didn't know what had to be done, right? There's one side of the very traditional agencies that said you have to build brand, you have to build consistency with certain kind of advertising, you have to be seen at these places, and that's really the traditional matrix of marketing and brand building was still very much out there. People like us came in and said, all this is great. You continue to do that once a year. What you need is volume, you need speed, you need to be available everywhere, you need to be seen everywhere. Today, the customer has evolved so much. Consumers are extremely smart. So it's not about making every marketing moment is not a moment to market. That's what I tell my marketeers, my brand managers and CMOs. We don't have to always be out there talking about something, having an opinion about something, because look at the world we live in, right? It's all about, are you top of mind? Are you being relevant? Are you saying the smartest, quickest thing in the moment of when there is a marketing moment? But it honestly isn't about that anymore. Customers are seeing through that. Customers are seeing through brands that are not authentic. They're seeing through communication which is done for the sake of communication. I'll give you an example. All of Mother's Day, Father's Day, Children's Day, Women's Day, the Pride Month, all of that. When brands sort of lap on to all of these moments, consumers see through it. The marketing community can pat each other on the back, but so many of them can see through it. And it is about, if as a brand, we and my the way I see marketing teams sort of flourish as we move forward is a combination of people who truly understand culture, which is very important. So you are someone who really understands what is culturally right, culturally relevant, and operate with a sense of responsibility, okay, which is one very important tenet. The second piece, with the evolving platforms we have, understanding technology is very important, extremely important. So culture and technology joining hands together, critical. The third aspect is brand building never goes away, right? It is never going to go away, because consumers still connect with the values of a brand, of what they spend their money on, and that part will never go away. How much we spend our money doing that is questionable. How do you consistently build brand even through a banner, a post on social, a comment on Twitter, a 140 character tweet, anything, everything has to come back, be pulled back from what your brand really stands for. You have to be culturally relevant, you have to understand technology and learn to play with technology and data, of course, which is a creative director's best friend. And brand building never goes away. That has to tie everything together. So in my view, you don't need bloated marketing teams. You just need someone who understands, one person or a combination of two to three people who really understand these three aspects, and you're going to be able to build a brand in the modern world.
So I saw a very interesting comment of yours which said, get comfortable with silence. So is that something that you think marketing has to start practicing?
Oh my God, that is one of the biggest things I have to so often send a message to CEOs and CMOs of some of our brands saying, guys, let's not do it right now. We just need to stay quiet. You don't have to be the loudest. It's our need to be the loudest voice. Are we part of those lists that says the most happening brands on Valentine's Day? It only makes you feel good, but it has not impacted the consumer at all. You have to be able to pull yourself out of those pieces and really, really get comfortable with silence and listen to your consumers' feedback on the content you put out. Because if you're not listening to them of the things that, because you get feedback almost instantly, right? Today,
Correct.
you're not constantly listening to them and being able to apologize when you need to, you're not going to be able to be successful in the world that we live in today.
Contraminds is a podcast dedicated to decoding people, minds, strategy, and culture. We interview and learn from high performers so that you can apply these lessons on your journey to becoming the knowledge worker athlete you were meant to be. The Contraminds podcast is available on all leading podcast players, and if you're interested in revisiting past episodes or taking a look at our show notes from this episode, please visit us at www.contraminds.com/blog. And now, back to the show.
Perfect. So, given this, kind of a, marketing department that you spoke about, where I think you're talking about, culture, you're talking about understanding technology. What kind of skills do you think a marketing department needs to have? And, in the earlier world, it was all about having a brand manager, having a product manager, there are below the line specialists. So, how do you think the marketing department of the future will look like, and what kind of skills do you think we need to equip ourselves with?
So I'm going to say this from the point of me starting a brand. If I were to have a brand that was up and running today, these are the people that I would have in my marketing team running the show. Number one, I would have someone who is very strong and has an opinion on social media, which means that this person is understands how to stay relevant. If this person understands how to stay relevant, that person is going to be able to keep the brand relevant, which is number one. Number two, I would have a person or this same person have the ability to really truly understand platform, understand performance. That is the only way to win in today's world. The third, I will never disrespect experience and traditional practices. So it's very important to have someone who understands the traditional aspects of brand building but is able to mold him or herself into operating with agility and operate and being able to mold themselves to what this complex world of marketing today is. Because if I the, I've joked about this before. If I had a journalist, I had an IT professional, and I had a brand manager from a traditional company, that would make my marketing team. And that's how I would put it.
Brilliant. I think, the word brand journalism has been spoken about, but it's important that, you get into the culture, you talk about, how do you really communicate, what is it that you will, communicate, and how do you do these messages, and communication is very, very important in an emotional manner. So, do you see a debate between uh, one being tactical and the other being more strategic? Because when you sit in a room, a typical old world brand or an advertising agency would come in and then say, hey, this is the way to build a brand, and it all looks like, hey, here is a framework, while the importance of the new world agencies understanding the strategic framework, and the importance of the strategic guys understanding the in moment marketing, which is also very important. I think there needs to be a fusion of this. And is that important?
It is so important, Swami. It is the need of the hour, and that's the thing that has given me sleepless nights over the last few years, which is to get creative strategic teams to sort of think in a way which is not one directional, or I do strategy and this is what I'm strategic for. I am a social media leader and that's the kind of work that I put out. To be able to merge that has been one of the biggest challenges, over the last few years, because I moved from building an agency that was really all about, winning on digital, winning on social, and then sort of, as we grew, bringing on talent that was, that was very highly strategic and didn't understand the need for speed, and didn't understand the need for why do we need to get turned around in, in a couple of weeks rather than a few months. It is a challenge. I do think that everything is marketing. There's no tactical strategic marketing. If you are out there, you're marketing, right? And I think we should take a sort of a page from a lot of the young companies who started out recently, um, brands, I mean, who started out recently, who didn't necessarily focus on large scale brand building, but still went out and were able to find some amount of success for themselves, right? Let's just sort of look at Mama Earth, for example, and there was no large scale brand building that was done for Mama Earth when they started out.
Yeah.
But or look at Boat, for example, the headphone company. Didn't go out and build large campaigns, but they've been able to be consistent about a certain kind of philosophy, right? That is Mama Earth talking about certain kind of ingredients, or really sort of experimenting with certain kind of ingredients. Both, on the other hand, really going out and being very unique, at great value, being able to find very different kind of disruptors in in an already crowded headphone market industry. Both of these companies really have started large scale brand building after they reached a certain stage, but they'd already reached that peak, and they did that. It was not distracted marketing. They were not saying one thing one day and another thing one day. They stuck true to their values. I am pure about my ingredients, and I am a disruptor when it comes to the entire headphone market. So be it the colors they came up with, or be it the kind of equipment they came up with, they've been able to do that. And it and it makes you think that the amount of money that we spend in traditional brand building, these guys have done it in a matter of no time, right? So there is that balance again that one has to strike in what we spend, how much money and time on, and how it is being able to understand that, look at what they've done. They put it out there with a certain kind of value system that they believed in as brands. They were constantly experimenting. They were going back and redoing things after listening to feedback consistently, very quickly coming back out there and putting out newer content, newer products, etc. Right?
True.
It is the speed, the agility, the DNA of disruption, the DNA of being able, understanding how to win in the digital world. It's fabulous, and
Absolutely.
and it's something that so many of the traditional brands, if this was 2 years ago, I would have said, gosh, you guys really need to sit up and take notice. But today, everyone has sat up and taken notice. They all know that you need to change the way we operate as marketing and agency partners, when we're putting our product or communication in the market today.
So, one challenge that normally you start facing is, how do you get creativity? How do you get creativity into a data guy, and how do you get, data into a creative guy?
Yeah.
Okay, is this not the challenge that you face in an industry, and how do you approach this problem?
Um, I honestly have only approached this with telling all my data scientists one thing: do not operate with the assumption that you're not creative, because of the amount of knowledge that you are sitting with, the insights that you are sitting on. Being able to even identify those insights is a form of creativity, right? Because when you mine that data and you're able to form that insight, it is a form of creativity, because you're putting your own, there's a lens of perception, there's a sense of value, there's a sense of cultural know-how. It's on the basis of that that you form that insight. That is creativity. When I've said that to people, it has liberated them, because suddenly you're going into a creative meeting not thinking that I'm just the data guy or I'm just the person who's coming with the insight, but someone who has an opinion on what kind of comms will potentially work. They may not be writing the headline or writing the tag or coming up with that great jingle. They may not be those people, but what they have done is a form of creativity. In a similar way, when it comes to creative teams saying, hey, I don't understand data, but especially at Glitch, as we were building Glitch, our creative teams were looking at the data on social platforms, looking at trends, looking at what people were talking, and on the basis of that, have created some of the biggest award winning, most impactful communication that we have put out. So it is, there is no segregation of left and right, in my opinion. The left brain and right brain are truly merged. There is obviously, one has is better at the other, but there is an intersection. And
There is only whole brain thinking.
yeah, exactly. There was only whole brain thinking. And if you don't operate with that, because that's important, right? You have to set the rules of the land when you run a meeting. And the rules of the land is that there is no left and right brain. This is we are a creative company, and as a creative company, everyone in this organization is creative.
So I'm coming to a very different question. So when you look at these creative companies, what are the challenges of scaling a services business? Because let me give you some, data points. So I was looking at this data in 1998. WPP was like a $2 billion company, and Google was just starting up that year. Okay, so I looked at the 2021 data. Maybe I would say you know revenue wise, WPP is about 6 billion, but you have somebody like Google, which is at probably 24 billion. Okay, so the nature and scale of not the creativity, but how do you monetize creativity, and therefore how do you scale your business has been a challenge, right? So therefore, how do you really scale a services business, and how do you build, revenue and monetization for some pretty, brilliant talent that's out there?
Yeah. Again, a good question, and people far smarter than me have answered this very eloquently, but I'm going to give it my take, which is the fact that you cannot put a price on creativity. And I may want to say that in a meeting room and say, hey, this is priceless, but at the end of the day, someone has to write that check, right? And which is why you don't sell creativity, you sell a product. You don't sell a service, you sell a product. And that is important. So what we have done, and while I have, for me, advertising is now sort of behind me in a sense, right? But what we did as we were building Glitch is it was not about the talent or the creative person that came in, and which is why we put value to that creative idea. It was the kind of products and services that we created, which were tangible, which you could put value on. For example, we automated video production. For example, there was certain piece on technology and really building smart tech for things that were happening long ago, when apps became a big deal, and when personalization became a big deal. We looked at all of those aspects and added and built products. So in any year we had at least 5 to 10 new products and services that we were launching, which is what we priced for, not creativity. Because creativity, my price may be 100 rupees, someone else's is 50 rupees, right? The person is always going to go with the one with 50 rupees. It has to be with what is the product that you take into the market. So to answer your question in a more sharper manner, is a service industry as scalable? There is enough evidence to show that it is not as scalable as a tech industry, or a product industry, or an industry like that. But if you're able to create products and services backed by tangible technology, something that a marketing manager is putting money behind, is going to actually be able to see result very, very quickly. That's the only way you're going to be able to scale up, but not on the back of creative retainers. That's not happening anymore.
So I think you're making a very, very important point, Pooja. I think what you're saying is think about productization of your services. Is that the future of how a marketing agency should be thinking, and therefore building revenues and enveloping services around it? Maybe that's really what you're talking about,
That
right?
is, in fact, we've been doing that for the last 6 7 years as Glitch, which is we've really branded our services and created products out of them, right? That is how I would say it. We've created multiple brands against which we're able to charge a certain amount of dollar for that particular product or service, and not necessarily for someone's time on that. So
Brilliant. So therefore, you're saying dealing time to an intellectual asset
yes,
and charge for the intellectual asset, and creativity is an outcome of your intellectual asset, and that's really the product.
absolutely, you said it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
perfect.
absolutely.
Okay. I'm coming to the next section, Pooja, which is really around leadership. I've seen you as a leader who's evolved over years, and I think what really, at least I can see is, every, interview of yours, every discussion of yours, every podcast of yours, every maybe town hall of yours, what I've heard people say is, you really talk about one interesting point, which is me needs to be the servant of we, right? I thought it's a very nice statement. And as a leader, how important is it to be a servant of we if you are a leader?
That is the most important aspect, because especially in the environment that I have operated in, because that's how I wanted to be led. So it comes down to me, which is the fact that if I was not part of a decision making, if I was not empowered enough to move and grow in my organization, I was not happy. I would not be successful. I have had great leaders who have really empowered me, and that is what I have taken to my own leadership, which is the fact that it is not just about Pooja's voice, it is not just about Pooja's opinion, but neither is it a pure play democracy where no decisions get taken, right? It has to be that perfect balance where people feel empowered. And when people feel empowered, magic happens. When there is leadership at every level, magic happens. When you believe that your leaders have your back, magic happens, right? And that is what has worked for me, which is as we built an organization, we were we were conscious of equal opportunity. We were conscious and valued opinions and people's voices. We were conscious of being fearless and and creating an environment where people could really raise their hand and challenge, right? As we did that, we ended up being an organization. I want you to know it was not, these are your values and hence you operate in a certain way. But when you look back and say, those are the things we did right? And which is what I was able to sum up for you right now. That I have seen this being the most magical revelation to me, that an empowered organization is an organization that creates magic. And that's what I take to the way I like to run my company, my teams, my exco, which is it's not just about Pooja, but it's about all of us together, and I happen to be the leader of that.
And this is a simple secret. And why do people find it hard to do this?
I don't know, but I think it's also there's one thing that I say very often, and people take that the wrong way. is that I have great confidence in my own self and great faith in my own self that I don't need to pull someone else down or not give someone else the light to be able to shine. I do believe that good leaders are leaders who are very confident people, who are secure people. Because if you are not confident and secure yourself, you will never be able to let anyone else flourish. And good leadership, so great leaders are only defined by other people. You don't call yourself a great leader, someone else calls you a great leader, right? And that only happens if they have felt good under your leadership, right? So it's just that my own, I have such great faith in myself, Swami. It's undying.
No, no, I would totally agree, and I think you hit that point very well, which is being secure about yourself is the first step to being a leader,
Yes.
right? Leave your designation, leave whatever, but are you secure about yourself? Because insecurity creates a whole host of problems. And I think the reason why you were able to do that is you are secure about yourself. I think
Absolutely.
that's the answer I was looking for, and you actually gave me that answer. So it's a very, very important, thing to learn. And maybe that's the reason when you say, it's a very easy thing to do, but it's the most hard thing to do,
Mm.
right? So I think that's really the key.
Yeah.
I would ask you one other question. You were a VP of client strategy, and then you transformed to being a CEO. So what are the changes that you had to go through when you did this transformation?
Again, a fabulous question. I think an answer which will add value to people growing up the charts in the corporate world. Now, when you're VP of client strategy, you run the client strategy aspect of the business. You're taking the decisions, the good and the bad are all yours, right? It's hard, it's amazing, it's also very, very rewarding. When you become CEO, you in a sense become a janitor. And I don't mean that in a negative manner. You're a janitor, you're a therapist, you're only a problem solver. The aspect of the constant, um, there's things that reach your desk only when they reach a certain level, right? That's what happens. There are a few things that happen at that stage. Number one, you st- the word FOMO was actually is very important here. It's the fear of missing out. You're suddenly not in all of the meetings anymore. You're not the one running that brainstorm, which is what gave you such joy. And you're suddenly focused on things that were very tactical, that were very sort of executive, important yet executive. I feel that there's a cycle, just like a grief cycle. There is a escalation cycle, there's a growth cycle that you go through. There's a part of you which is like, hey, I've got this designation, there's certain expectation from it. There's a part of you, I hate this job, I really don't like what I actually have to do as this job. The moment you get through that acceptance, you have to leave a part of you behind, right? You have to let go. You have to let other people do what you loved to do. You have to let them make their own mistakes. There's that cycle. You go through that cycle of acceptance. When you have accepted is when you start doing, you start performing as a CEO, and stop looking at it as just the tactical aspect, but with that massive responsibility that everyone's actually looking to you to lead the ship, right? And waking up every morning and coming to work, realizing that the decision that make today, the conversations that I have with people, the phone that I answer, the comment that I may write, an email that I may send out to a young colleague, the value of my time, the value of my opinion, the value of anything that I may do has just gone up 100 folds. It's absolutely humbling, scary. I have to say that. Extremely scary, but also immediately makes you a completely different person. and you have to constantly train yourself. And I'm not shy of that at all. In fact, I think I recommend that to everybody. Now, when I took on this job, I started working with professional coach. I worked with a therapist to make sure if I was mentally fit, if I was physically strong, my organization was mentally fit and my organization would be physically strong, right? And I made sure that I constantly equipped myself to be the CEO of an organization, because you're not a born CEO, you learn to be CEO. I hope I answered your question.
Brilliant, brilliant. The other thing that I want to, ask you is, often you're not taught the other functional skills like finance,
Okay.
admin, HR, and suddenly, these are meetings that you need to take. How do you transform to that role when suddenly those functions you were not never responsible for suddenly come under you, and suddenly you look at, HR as a cost, something as a margin, this as an EBITDA, and how did you look at it, and how did you transform yourself to actually say, you know what, I think these are critical components in organizational building.
Yeah, yeah.
uh,
And that's a very, again, you're right that it's not something that you're taught, it's something that you're shocked when you have to do, right? Because when you get that job, you're like, hey, it's going to be business as usual, right? And then suddenly I have to do a meeting on tax, and then I have to do a meeting on gratuity, and I have to do a meeting on with admin on office chairs and lights and ACs. You're holding your head and you suddenly wonder what all, did you really sign up for this? But the what I really did is I truly took the time to understand these functions. Over time, I learned to value the importance of all of these functions, and not just in how they feature on my P&L, but how important they are as an organization scales. Without finance, HR, admin working together, the organization will never be strong. So today, the most important people for me is my CFO, is my chief talent officer. The most important people for me are these two people, because without finance and people, there is no organization. And you understand that over a period of time. But for me, very very quickly, it was quite. There were many days where I would come back home wondering that I'm suddenly not part of that really important pitch that I wanted to be part of, but I just did a meeting on people policies. So yeah, it's a journey, and but you eventually start enjoying all of it.
and a follow-up question to that is, uh, when you are a VP client strategy, or when you are in the midst of a middle management role, 100% of your time goes into probably a lot of client business. For the client, you think 100%.
Yeah.
But when you become a CEO, how much of time did you allocate for strategic thinking for the company?
I would say that 50% of my time was that, because if I was not giving 50% of my time on what the strategic direction of the company was going to be, I was going to fail. um, and I was very conscious of that. I'm a planner, just as just my natural, just the way I manage myself and my life and my time. It had to be that this is how I was distributing my energy more than my time. You know, my energy was focused on driving the organization in a certain direction. I was very clear, very articulate about that with my executive committee on the direction that we had to go in. Being able to delegate and let go of my articulation and let everyone else flourish in the direction that we were going in was equally important, which is why it was only 50%. And which is what has really helped me. All of the leaders that were with us when we started, when we reached a certain level as Glitch, today are sitting at chief roles in the network. All of them have stayed with us all of these years and today sit in these positions. It only happened because the articulation of the goal and the direction that we had was clear, and they flourished in that articulation because they could make it their own and move forward. Balance 50% went into everything else, which was equally important, which was people and the health of our P&L, the ethics with which we run our P&L, and how clean our books were. All of that really was the balance 50%.
Brilliant. So what you're really saying is, thinking 50% for the company, was the big transformation that you did from the role that you were doing to the role as you grow into a CEO role. So it's important for people to get prepared for it, right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to, end this with a couple of quick fire questions. Okay.
Yes.
So my first question to you is, what does success mean to you, Pooja?
Being able to sleep well at night.
My God. This is an answer that I have not got so frequently from others. What's the best piece of advice that you've ever got in your life that you can remember?
It was, I think, my husband who told me very recently that I need to be able to just let it go. And it was on the point of comparison, and he really did tell me that comparison is the killer of joy. And I think it was the best advice that he gave me, and it's sort of etched in my mind.
Very good. What would be the advice you would give to an 18-year-old in a university today?
If you don't have the fire in your belly, you can create it. You must do the 100%. You must be unabashedly knocking on doors that you want opened for yourself. You are not the center of anyone else's life. You're the hero of your own life. So take decisions accordingly.
Great. What is one thing that you believe in that others don't agree with you on?
That the universe rewards you. My friends have most often made a lot of fun of me. I'm a person who has manifested my life. Today at 36, at 37 now, I can say that with experience that I've manifested my life. I wanted to live a certain kind of life, and today I live that life. And I'm a true believer that what you put out into the universe, the energy that you put out into the universe, you find a way to subconsciously work towards that. There's great power in articulating the kind of life you want to live. Actually say, this is the kind of life I want to live. This is what I want to do when I am 30 years old. This is what I would like from my partner. This is what I would like from my marriage, from my profession. There is great power in saying it in words and putting it out there, because you find a way to make it happen. And most people
Brilliant.
don't believe in me, but I think now they've started to.
Brilliant. If you were to, invite 3 or 4 people for a dream dinner, who would you invite them and why?
I would not waste my time on anyone else besides my closest friends and family, because I have such limited time. So I have no interest in spending my time with people that just don't make me extremely happy. My life table is full of people I love, and those are the people invited to any dinner that I may host.
Brilliant. So my last question to you is, now that you've heard this podcast, now that you've seen the kind of questions that we ask, who would be one guest who you think you would recommend for this podcast so that you can listen to that person in this podcast?
Oh, that's interesting. Who would I like on your podcast? Um, I'm very intrigued by, and I think this may be very offbeat. I hope it works. You can push the elevator field. But I'm very interested of people who work in the World Health Organization. because just the way our world is today, right? And what all they have to do. I would be very interested to listen because of how your podcast is and the kind of people that you have brought on and the diversity of the people you got on. I'll be very interested to listen to someone from the World Health Organization, someone up there in the World Health Organization, talk to about their own about decision making, about the policies that they set out, because what they do really enables us to live the way we do, right?
So,
And that's what
so
I would
somebody like Soumya Swaminathan or somebody like that, right?
probably, yeah,
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 who's in the World Health Organization, and probably she's taking, wide-ranging decisions around, the COVID and yeah,
yeah. And not just about COVID, but so much about public health.
about public health. Correct. About public health. Okay. Thanks a ton, Pooja. It was lovely talking to you, and I really enjoyed the answers that you shared with me. It was completely honest, authentic, and it was really fun talking to you.
Thank you, Sonia. I would thoroughly enjoy this conversation as well. All the best for everything you do.
Thanks for listening to this episode. For selected links and detailed show notes, visit www.contraminds.com/blog. Follow ContraMinds on social media and let us know who you would like to see next on the podcast. If you're listening to ContraMinds on Apple Podcasts, do share your comments and give us a rating. We are keen to know what you're thinking. ContraMinds is also on YouTube. If you're listening to the podcast on YouTube, hit the subscribe button and stay up to date on all our releases. Thanks for listening and stay safe.